Michael, what are we doing today?
Well, today we're not in Hackshop Garage, as you can see. Today we're actually in our good mate Brentons' shed, because today we're going to go through and do another shed tour. And this is a pretty exciting shed tour, because this has got to be, honestly, I think Nathan would agree, one of the most well thought out and clever shed designs I've ever come across, especially for a residential size shed like this. And there's a lot to take in this shed, so I reckon we should get straight into it. What do you reckon?
Well, Brenton has generously let us come down to his shed after he spent, I think, months cleaning it up before we've arrived.
Years.
So first of all, how big is the shed? How high? Just all the dimensions, really.
So it's 14 metres front to back.
Yeah.
It's 7 metres wide and 3.3 to the eave and about 4 at the gable.
Yeah. So it's a decent sized shed.
Yeah.
And from the outside, it actually looks quite large, but when you're in, you know, it always compacts in, but it's still big. Mezzanine hides a lot.
The mezzanine does have a lot. I reckon today when me and Nate probably for the first time saw it from out the backyard out that way,
Yeah.
I realised just how big a shed this actually is from the outside.
It is a big shed.
But I can say that there's not an inch of space wasted here either.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so clever.
He's thought of everything.
Primarily, what do you use the shed for, Brenton?
Yeah.
So just tinkering basically, bikes, cars. I like doing fabrication sort of work as well, projects, bit of turning and welding and that sort of stuff. Also, obviously, I'm renovating the house and that, so quite often all the fun stuff gets pushed into the corner, and then it's like painting doors and lengths of timber.
Well, that's Michael's shed at the moment.
Yeah, it's fun when your automotive shed almost has to become another shed at the same time.
Yeah, so it has a few different purposes.
No, it's awesome. All right, so where should we start? You reckon we start from the doors in?
Yeah, let's start from the doors, because the magic starts from the start.
Yeah, all right.
So from up front we have two standard size roller doors. Brenton said they're 2.4
Yeah,
doors.
about 2.4 I think.
Basically your standard size roller doors. You're never going to get a caravan in here, but that's not the point. It's a workshop, not a storage shed. And this is where the shed begins. You can see here he has his sandblaster set up. The shed is just littered with parts and stuff spread throughout the place, but it's all actually organised really well. It's not just like some hoarder sheds, which I'm guilty of, where you have those sections where you just throw everything into. It's all really well laid out. Is this all your motorbike stuff, or?
It's just assorted stuff. I'm not one to throw anything out. Like, it has to be, like, if it's got some residual value to it, I like to keep stuff and, try and reuse it. Bits and pieces, like there's some axles and some spark plugs and fuel taps and that sort of stuff for motorbikes.
We need a fuel tap.
Levers. But then when you get down the bottom, there's a couple with like tape and that in it, and mainly motorbike stuff.
So straight away, one of the things you'll notice, which I think is a really awesome idea in this shed, and this sort of goes on with the whole not wasting any space, is, would you call it a mezzanine, Brenton?
Yeah, I suppose it's halfway between a shelf and a small mezzanine, I suppose.
Yeah.
A shelf.
This is the mezzanine that he's just recently built. It's probably one of the latest things he built on the shed.
Yep.
And this runs over the front roller doors because, it's wasted space generally on the top of the roller doors, and it's something we've thought about doing in our shed as well too, is running that over, because obviously he can store all his bikes and all his other collections up there, and it's just as simple as it's just your timber construction, isn't it?
Yeah, basically. Yep.
Yeah,
a bit of
and
carpentry.
it's awesome. But straight up, one of the coolest things that I reckon that you've done is your air compressor, which normally is a fairly big bulky item, is hidden up here in the mezzanine. Brenton actually bought a standard air compressor, which normally has the motor on top of the tank and that, disassembled it, made his own frame, made it like a boxer. It's like a boxer engine now. a flat style setup, and set it up underneath the mezzanine, just got it out of the way. And I think that's bloody awesome. I love it. It's so clever and such a neat little way to get rid of what is a bulky item.
The idea is just to free up as much floor space where possible.
Yep.
Hoarder mentality is that you've got to have room to keep the stuff that keeps coming in, so you've got to keep bulldozing stuff into corners.
So obviously we can see that Brenton loves his motorbikes. So I feel like storing motorbikes is probably the worst thing.
Better than cars.
Well, it's better than cars, but he's made racks to mount the motorbikes to the wall, and then there's just motorbikes absolutely everywhere.
How do you actually get it up there?
So just the engine crane, like you use for getting your engine out of your car, just that one there. Yeah,
It's
just
clever.
A couple of straps and lift it up, and yeah.
It also looks really cool too.
It does look cool. It's just a genius idea to put them on a wall.
I like the aerial. The aerial out here is really good too.
Yeah, the aerial, the tyre rack. We keep saying we want to build a tyre rack.
Yeah, that's one of our to-do lists. I
I
really
feel
like
like
that.
half of this garage is our to-do list. Like
Oh,
the mezzanine.
I can say there's been a lot
bicycle
of.
shelf.
I've taken a lot of inspiration from this shed for our shed.
I guess we should move on to the hoist. Hey, so it's a 4-poster. What brand?
So it was bought through Aussie Car Hoist in Ballarat.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a 4.5 ton. It's sort of like an oversized one. It's bigger than a lot of
It
the
is quite large.
4 posts.
Yeah. The posts aren't as big as I thought, to be honest.
No,
They're
it
quite-
doesn't take up a lot of room.
It doesn't take up a lot
surprisingly.
of room.
No, it goes quite a bit higher than your average. Like
Yeah.
I think that's not maxed out there, and you've got to look. You wouldn't work on a car that high, certainly.
Nah.
It's higher than mine.
It's higher than freaking Mike.
But obviously the idea of this was just to
Store cars.
store cars and get a little bit extra room in the
Yeah,
shed.
basically it frees up another car bay.
Well, obviously we can't go past the
The
orange thing in the room.
the beautiful GTS, the elephant in the room. Just look at it. Can you give us a brief rundown on the GTS?
Yeah, it's a 73 HQ, originally a LS, not a GTS. So
Yep.
it's basically a mock-up car. It belongs to my father and I. We did it up 2005 or 6.
Oh, okay.
Long time ago. We built it ourselves over about a 7 or 8 year period. Might have been on the road for about 10 years now.
Yeah. So what
Um,
engines got in it again?
It's a 304 roller cam engine from a VT,
Yep.
but it's got a carburetor and all
Yeah.
that. So it's
It looks really clean.
600 Holly and,
Yeah.
and all of that. So,
And what box is it running?
Getrag 5-speed, also VT Commodore,
Yeah, nice. Nice.
and Salisbury limited slip up
Yeah.
the back,
Limited slip.
355s.
I wouldn't know that limited slip. How I wouldn't know about that.
Oh, 355s, okay.
Yeah.
That'd go alright, this thing. Oh, Michael's driven it.
I've been very lucky enough to be handed the keys and drive this thing and live out my childhood dream of driving a HQ coupe, and it was everything that I would hope to be and more.
Just like a 4-door, except the windows don't seal.
Oh, it's a tough car.
Maybe one day, if the viewers are interested, we might have to do a review on it.
Yeah,
I
think
reckon.
we should do a review.
Certainly.
Moving on to midway down the shed now, we're moving into obviously the motorbike storage, and we have a plethora of motorbikes to choose from here. Brenton was saying that this section here, this set of shelves here, is just all he's collecting when it comes to all the motorbike gear that he has been collecting over the years. That was one of the first things that he did in the shed, was get this racking system up. Another thing that he pointed out too, which Nathan just laughed because you can barely see it, but this whole shed is actually cladded as well too internally with, it's just chipboard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's yellow tongue flooring.
Yellow tongue flooring,
Mm.
and I bet that makes a huge difference for keeping the heat in
Yeah,
and out.
huge. And it's got bats behind it as well.
Oh, so yeah, that'd make a huge difference. That's
So
what we need
it's
to
really
do. Yeah.
just the ceiling that's not insulated. Oh, it's just the isolation paper. It stops the condensation.
do. Since doing our shed tour, a lot of people ask us, is it worth doing isolation in the roof or insulation in the roof?
Oh,
And I'd say
definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah, you would not.
I would not do that. Like, I don't have it on the walls, and it's not so bad for me because my shed's sort of hidden by most things except for the front face. But the roof takes the heat out so much just by having that. So in this cupboard here, apart from keeping all the stickers off the floor, as Brenton just said, he keeps all his motorbike gear in here, all very well laid out and organised, as you can see, as you'd expect by the rest of this shed. And obviously, this is all just recycled stuff from you grab from kitchens or something like that.
It's like an old freestanding wardrobe, I think.
Yeah. So this is just your servicing sort of area, like your paints and your solvents and all that. You keep it all
Yeah.
here, easy to get to.
Basically, yeah, things like spray paints and nuts and bolts and screws and that sort of stuff. Yeah, just to try and keep it organised.
You got your motorbike stand here as well too.
Yep.
That gets a fair workout here, I'm sure.
Yep. Not so much now. I tend to use the bigger one there.
Yep. Yep.
The ride-on hoist, which is far better, like on your back and that.
Yeah.
But this is sort of like the overflow one. If I've got 2 projects on the go at once, then
Yep.
I can set one bike up on there and one bike up on the hoist.
So tell us about this. I like this bench. This is a really clever bench.
So this was a recent addition. I only finished it probably a few months ago. The top's a kitchen counter which came from my neighbour's house.
Yep.
And I had the need for another bench. I thought just something that was mobile that I could move around. So I made that out of what was an old cabinet, which is the cupboard doors there, an old toolbox, and the rest of it's sort of just chipboard offcuts from doing all the cladding, internal cladding in the shed. So yeah, just made it up and gave it a coat of paint, and yeah, it's a good functional, sturdy bench and a lot of storage in it. And the most valuable thing is I can wheel it to any corner of the shed with whatever I'm doing.
Benches on wheels.
And
Benches on wheels with toolboxes.
Yeah,
That's what I like the most.
like the toolbox is just it's a cheap sort of set. Like it's not the best tools, but the fact that you can have something at your fingertips,
Yeah.
no matter where you are, without walking halfway across the shed back to your toolbox is pretty handy at
Well, I'm
times.
just looking at all the stuff that you actually have in here, like, and like even the shelves and stuff like here. This is nearly a full servicing. You can nearly service the whole vehicle out of just what's here, like a whole bike, I'm assuming.
Yeah, pretty much. Old fashioned, like a 1960s cabinet.
This is
a,
like when you get a locksmith to come and unlock your door.
like a TV cabinet or something.
Man.
So it's got like all sorts of stuff in it, like paintbrushes and sanding stuff and
Yeah.
like cleaning supplies. That and just your slab of carpet.
Yeah.
You can put that and you can put your guitar or something
Wow.
if you're doing something.
Yeah.
That's
Didn't see that.
I didn't even see that, so it just sits underneath the bench top.
Yeah, it's just got a really small gap, or it'd fit like a sheet of ply or something if you wanted to.
Genius.
So he can work on his guitars.
Got to be one of the most well thought out,
Yeah.
understated little benches
I know,
you've
isn't
ever
it?
seen.
Alright, let's get to the main event, eh?
Yeah, let's get what Nathan really
we
wants
need,
to
we
talk
need
about.
to stop peddling.
Messing around.
Obviously, the greatest thing is the mezzanine. I love the mezzanine.
Yeah.
It's a beefy mezzanine. What size is the mezzanine, actually?
So it's 3.6 deep,
Yeah.
and it's the full 7 metre width of the
Yeah.
shed.
It is really beefy, and obviously the most favoured thing is the slots for all the spare, all the scrap steel, timber, and it slots into the channeling of the mezzanine.
Like I said, there's no
wouldn't even
wasted
know it's
space.
there.
No wasted space.
No
in
wasted
the shed.
space. You wouldn't even know it's there, and it's beefy as well. Like you've doubled up on the C channel.
So the mezzanine was sort of my own design, and I'm not an engineer, so I always go hard with the
Yeah.
steel.
Like even just the flashing, like you've capped it.
Yeah.
It's just, it makes it look good, really good.
So while we're on the mezzanine, we should probably talk about how you actually get stuff onto the mezzanine, because there are a
Yes.
fair few bikes. And
Yeah.
look,
Great
I don't
bikes,
know
bike.
anyone who could lift a bike up to that height. So how are we getting them up there?
I got this that I hooked up on a carriage. So it's just a 250 kilo cable hoist, and it's just basically on 2 C-purlins bolted back to back, and a little carriage with some skateboard wheels on it.
Absolutely love it.
It's so ingenious and so clever, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
good. So I even use it in this bay if I'm working on something heavy. You can pick it up and then just take it off the ground, like
Yeah.
that air compressor, for instance.
Yeah, okay.
To get that up, I've used that to lift it.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
and then if you want to take something and drop it up the top, you can just wheel it all the way along, and it sort of just gets you above the edge lip,
Yeah,
so it'll drop it down on the edge.
beautiful.
It's so
That
clever.
is an awesome idea.
So there isn't a whole bunch of room up here for a couple of blokes to sit up here, so it's just me, but I'm going for a wander into his mezzanine at the minute, and you can just see there are more bikes and more goodies all spread out through here. That just obviously gets everything off the floor and hides it all away. All your long-term stuff, let's say, Brenton, like stuff that you're not grabbing every day, obviously.
That's right.
And it's a good size. What's the height roughly? Probably about a metre, would you say?
In the middle, I think it's nearly like 1.5 meters
Yeah.
or something, and back at the edge, I think it gets down to around 1 meter.
Yeah, it's a great little. I am so envious of this space.
Oh, it's awesome.
I would love this because you got this in your shed,
Rouse mezzanine.
at your dad's shed as well too.
Yeah,
and
he's got a mezzanine.
it's bloody
It's
awesome.
an awesome idea, the mezzanine.
Just said we're in American Pickers here. Ugh. Would you consider selling this? $50? Look at all the tires. It just keeps going. Now I'm in the engine spot.
That's the engine's back there.
Oh, wow. Of course, the customary biscuit tins full of probably bolts and God knows what else, but if there isn't a shed in Australia that doesn't have that in there, I don't know of it yet. Let's get in the machine area. That's where we want to be. That's what we want to see.
This is what we want to use.
Yeah, this is what I drool over. This is what I
This
want
is
to.
what I want to use. Still haven't got there yet. This one's a goer, but that one's just been parked there.
It's a cool little setup though.
It's a grass
It's
machine.
a grass little mill because it's like I've never really seen one where it's set up on a pedestal like that.
Yeah.
It's a really neat
It is
little one
really
like that.
cool.
And you got your MIG there.
Yeah, the old faithful MIG. That was the $60 eBay special.
It works all right.
Brilliant.
Yeah?
I gave it a birthday too, so it got like all new leads, a new torch and bits and pieces, and updated it a bit, but it's great. It's got plenty of go about it. It'll weld quite thick stuff easily, and it works really good.
What sits above you? I was just looking. I just noticed there's a really good sticker right here. If anyone's interested, they can head to our website and get their own. But what's sitting in the cabinets above the top there?
So that was stuff, like in this one, I've just got some of the lathe related stuff that's not in the lathe stand.
Yeah.
So there's like a dial gauge there and some 1, 2, 3 blocks and a set of punches and some drills and that up there. Magazines and bits and pieces and some machinist jacks and a clamp set for the mill. So
Alright, we've got to talk about the welding table. That's the best thing. So we were banging on about like steel top welding tables. This is the ultimate DIY steel top welding table.
It's so clever.
Yeah. Alright, come on. You
But-
can
but-
explain this one.
But I'll put a caveat on it. It's actually like in my head, I had an idea of what I wanted and I built it, and I've used it a few times for some small fab jobs, and now I'm going to change it. So don't build it like that.
Okay, don't build it like this, but it's a freaking good table.
Yeah.
It's a nice small table. It's not giant, but
So-
it's a nice size, and yeah, go for it.
It was made out of an old-fashioned office desk, a height adjustable office desk with a hand cranked for
Yeah.
up and down.
Yeah,
So I put welded an old socket in there.
yeah.
So you just put your drill with a 3/4 adapter.
Yeah. You want to do that actually?
Yeah.
Can we give it a whirl? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love how organised you are. And hey presto, you're welding.
That actually goes a lot higher than I thought.
Yeah, look how high it goes.
You go that's as high as it goes there. So you can go to standing height if you want to do a standing job.
Yeah.
But how good's that though? You can go from sitting down, like if you
Yeah.
were doing a set of headers or something
Yeah.
like that, to standing and
Yeah.
give
It's
you
just-
back a rest.
It's just repurposing, like an old office desk, and then now you can. It's a welding table with. Go on, yeah.
So they're basically all just like modular sections that were made up to fit on 2 rails. So the thought process was, depending on how you want to fix something up, you can slide them across. You've got sort of various different sizes. But what I found the biggest problem is because they're floating, if you're trying to fix something on them, it just allows a little bit of movement. So when you
Right.
weld, you might have stuff clamped
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
but unless you clamp these planks to the main rails,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get a little bit of movement.
Yeah.
So in the end, I'm probably going to do away with that and add like a proper, like a pegged fixture top
Yeah.
Yeah.
table,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they're not super cheap.
PVC, hold your filler wire.
Yeah.
Yep.
So everything's in reach. All your welding gear is obviously here, and you got your TIG there.
Yeah.
Yep, the TIG, the Everlast TIG, which has been really good. Can't fault that machine actually. It's better than I am.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I really like is this. I reckon that's really clever too. All your screwdrivers.
You could be sit in here for hours.
Oh,
just
there's so
staring
much
at
in
the
this
little- I
shed.
didn't even realise that.
Yeah.
And I was staring right at the ratchet spanners hanging there.
Yeah.
And then I just, when you pulled out the screwdriver, I seen it.
So moving on to probably the last bench in here, I reckon. Have we got any more? No, this is probably the last one and probably your biggest bench.
Yep.
This is where all the fun stuff happens, would you say? Like,
It's where something happens. It's actually not much usually happens there because it's usually piled up to the roof there with junk. But when it's clear, yeah, it's pretty handy size.
so you got your bench grinder there.
Yeah, that's a brand new one. That's
I was going to say it looks nice and shiny.
yeah, hasn't done any grinding yet. So. But we'll get there.
And are you using this as an anvil? Is that
Yeah,
the idea of this?
basically the bit of railway iron is just an anvil.
That's pretty cool.
The good old big
and
junk
the
steel.
little grinder there is essentially just set up for tungstens, just grinding the tungstens.
That's
Oh,
a good
yeah,
idea.
perfect. That's a
having
good
a little
idea.
one just for tungsten. And this is just a little Azito one.
Yeah,
Costs you nothing,
yeah,
I'm
it costs
assuming.
about $35 or $40.
It's such a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it.
It's not even unwrapped yet.
And when you're at my school of TIG welding, you use it a lot.
I love your Dawn offset vise as well too. That's a 100
Yep.
mil by the looks of it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's really cool. So obviously, yeah, this is on wheels as well too, so you can get it out if ever you need it.
yeah.
And you just store everything underneath as well.
Yeah, it's just got storage underneath. It's basically just another one made out of like reclaimed something. I think I pulled down a fence or something, made the frame out of
Looks like it. Some
whatever
beefy
I-
posts.
yeah, whatever I had lying around. And
Actually, I want to know what the floor is painted in.
That's what Nathan
so the
wants to know.
floor is like a 2-pack urethane type
Mhm.
paint. I
Yep.
can't remember the exact brand name. So that's 7 or 8 years old, and it's basically flawless.
It's done really well, and it feels really smooth.
It's smooth. It's probably a little bit slippery underfoot if you get it wet or
Yeah.
oily.
Yeah.
That's the only criticism. But as you painted it, it's sort of got these little air bubbles in it. And
Yeah.
those little air bubbles add a little bit of grip to it.
Yeah.
But it's been extremely hard wearing.
Yeah, it's held up really well.
Yeah, and it looks good.
We should talk about that too. So obviously you have 2 panels of skylights.
Yep.
But what lighting do you run in here? Is all fluoros?
All fluoros that have been retrofit LEDs.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you find it enough? Do you find it works well enough?
Yeah, this area is good. Underneath the mezzanine's terrible.
Yeah.
Because it's lower, it casts shadows, and the temporary lights I've got set up in there are, they're probably all right, but it's not enough in the right position. So that'll get revisited at some point.
One thing before we go up, I reckon we should talk about this. This is a cool little hack that Brenton showed me one day. On his mezzanine post here, he's sunk a couple of threads, or you put some bolts in there.
Yeah, I just welded some big nuts. I think they're like M14 or M16. They're pretty sizable ones.
And the idea is you can use this as an anchor point for various different things. I think when I came here, you had it set up with a big clamp on it, didn't you? So you could put a frame to it.
Yeah, I had a motorbike triple tree that needed a bit of straightening, so I built a jig, and I couldn't for the life of me. The jig was fine, but I couldn't anchor it well enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put it in the vise and you're dragging your workbench around the table, around the floor and that. So I was looking for something sturdy. I'm like, that'd be it. The idea was I did that with the intention of being able to bolt whatever I wanted to it, like maybe like a pipe bender or even like another linisher or a bench grinder or just a tool stand. Yeah.
It's cool. It makes it really versatile, and you just got a template that you can just remake and
That's
mount
right, yeah.
various different things to. It's a really clever idea.
Yeah, it is a great
It's
idea.
something that I'd like to do in my shed as well too. I just don't know what's strong enough to really do it because we don't have any of this. It's all just
Be
seat
pretty,
channel.
yeah, it needs to
Yeah.
be pretty well anchored.
All right, well that pretty much wraps up a brief overview of this shed. Me and Nathan saying before, like we could spend all day here and we could probably give you a 5-part series on just this shed alone and just all the little nifty tricks and ideas that you've set up here. And it's a credit to you, mate. You've done an incredible job. It's definitely been an inspiration for setting up our shed, and hopefully to a lot of the guys watching at home as well too, because this is your at-home shed. This is what you have in your backyard, and you've been working on it for what we work out 7 years ish.
Oh yeah, probably about 8 years I suppose in total, but it's probably got another 10 years to go before it actually finished. It's still a work in progress.
That rolls onto the question then. What would you want to change about it?
Yeah, so like, yeah, is there anything that you would do different now that you've done it?
There's always a temptation to say build it bigger
Yeah.
because you can't have too much space.
Yeah.
But one thing that always I've thought about, if I was building it again, even if I was limited to the size, I'd go another 300 taller.
Okay, yeah.
And the reason being is it'd make the mezzanine more flexible. You could probably nearly get standing height in the middle then.
Yep.
And the other reason being that the yellow tongue flooring that I clad all the walls with are 3/6 sheets.
So you wouldn't have to have trimmed them all?
Yeah. that's a lot of cuts. Would have made life a bit easier.
I love that. As soon as you said it, I'm like, I know where he's going with this. How do you find it to work in? Like, what do you like about the shed? What are the features that you think work really well?
So up until now, as you say, it's been terrible.
Yeah.
Because it's basically spent the last year just getting it so it's a functional workshop.
Yeah.
It looked completely different 12 months ago.
Well, yeah, I remember when I walked in the first time saying this shed has changed a lot since I've seen it, but I think where you've got it now is
it's
really
good now.
well
Yeah, I come out here basically I come out in the evenings after the kids are in bed, and you come out before and it was a little bit like not stressful, but you just sort of felt not quite at ease because there was clutter and there was disorganisation. But now you come out and it's clean and organised, and you feel like it's productive, like you can get something achieved.
Yeah, and the best thing I think, from my opinion, what I like about them the most is you can have multiple projects on the go here at one time. You have a really good workway here if you're working on a project, that you can have a car here, it's not in your way, you have to leave it overnight. You've got your car storage here as well too, where you've got 2 cars that you can stack and also work on and service on a car like that. But then you've got this whole section to the back of your shed here, which is completely separate. Not to mention you've got tools everywhere, so you're not just using one stockpile of tools, and you can do your bikes down there, you can do a welding project down there, you can do machining down there, and it all stays separate. And I think that's a really good thing. Like, one thing that I talk about in my shed is that we can probably do 2 cars at one time comfortably. You can easily do that as well as a couple of bikes at the same time here, which is a credit to it considering it is what was 14 by 7 shed. It's not a huge shed, but it's not a small shed either.
Big shed.
It's a big shed, but it's not like a
you could
monster
fit
of a shed.
you could fit 5 cars in here if you wanted to.
Yeah, you could if you had all that cleared out. Yeah. And cost. Do you mind talking about how much you reckon it's cost you for those at home?
So obviously it's going back a while now. Prices are probably all different. So we bought it as a kit, and my dad and I put it up over the space of about 12 months probably. And I think the kit was about 11.5 grand for the kit, which was through Central Vic Sheds in Kyneton. Brewing company, couldn't recommend them any higher. They're really good. Floor I think was about 6 grand in concrete.
That's pretty good
thin.
actually.
It's like 100 mil. I did put some deeper pockets in for a 2-post. I forgot where I buried them.
So said and done, you reckon for the basic shed, not obviously all your stuff inside, you'd probably be looking at around under 20 then, you would say?
It'd be around 20, I think, for the basic shed. I think by the time you look at the mezzanine, that probably added another 2 or 3 for the materials. So yeah, probably all said and done around 20, but yeah, that's probably not including a few of the other projects, like maybe the back one.
And what would you say would be your most valuable tool or your most valuable asset in the shed itself? Like what do you think is the best thing you've done?
Well, not that I go to it the most, but definitely like from what I plan on doing in the future, the lathe and the mill and the TIG. The TIG was always something I wanted to have proper go at. And I've since sort of taught myself how to do it and getting slightly better. And future wise, like I think they're going to be my favourite things, but I couldn't say that they're my go-tos at the moment.
I think that wraps us up, So I don't know how long this episode's been. I reckon it's been quite long by the time I've edited this, because like I said, there's so much that we could go through in this shed, and there's so much more. We could almost do a 2-parter. Maybe we will one day, we'll see. Maybe when we come back.
Maybe we can come back in 10 years.
Mark 2.
Mark 2, whole story.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, you watch tomorrow after we've filmed all this. It's probably gonna be gutted apart.
Yeah.
And he's gonna redesign.
Exactly right. But, yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you've got a little bit of inspiration out of it, like I and like myself and Nathan have over the time that we've known Brenton, and he's been kind enough to let us walk through his shed today and basically pillage through all his stuff. Yeah, thanks so much for letting us walk around your shed today, mate.
Pleasure.
It's been awesome. If you've liked this episode, please make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing as well too, because shed tours, now that we can, we're really hoping to do a lot more of them. And potentially if you guys have a shed at home similar to this and you think we'd be interested in come check it out, send us your info and maybe we'll do a few more of these. We'll see how we go. I'd like to also say a big thank you to our major sponsor, Brentons Garage, for sponsoring this episode. Obviously, they're really into their DIYs at home, and this is exactly what this is. It's a DIY at home shed. Make sure you head over to the Brentons Garage website to look into stuff like that, as well as head into Brentons Auto Parts itself to get all your deals on all your tools, car parts and anything like that, because they're the experts in the game. I think this is airing in the last week of November, otherwise known as Movember, so please, if you could do us a favour, click the link in the description below to head on over to our Movember team, Hackshop Garage team, and if you could spare any coin at all to donate towards a really great cause. Men's mental health is something that we really want to get behind and really support, so any donation that you make goes a really long way, and thank you to those who already have donated. It's really appreciated, and yeah, it's awesome to see that happening. So
Yeah.
Thank you guys. I think that pretty much wraps it up. This has been an awesome tour. Like I said, I reckon we've blabbed on for ages, so I hope you guys have stuck around. In the comments below, tell us what you reckon your favourite thing about this shed is. So let's start the discussion. Let's get some inspiration flowing.
Yeah, other than Brenton's brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than all the genius things it's done to
Yeah.
this thing. Let us know what you thought was your favourite thing, and yeah, we're going to stick around, probably look at a few more things, and until next week when we're probably back in the shed or doing something else, we'll catch you in the next episode.
Back before you had the hoist, I remember when I first met Brenton, we were talking about, oh, I've got a shed. Oh, you got a shed? And we were like, we went on a shed tour, each other's sheds, and I'm like, well, I've got the hoist, and you've got the machines, so we should become best friends. But now he's got a hoist, so he doesn't need me anymore. So it's a good view from up here too, especially with that Monaro just sitting there.
I can already tell once this episode's aired, my old man's going to ask Brenton to sell that little Honda or one of the little pocket bikes up there. I can already tell. I already know.
I am so jealous of this. What? Oh.
Hey, if you knock one box, it all comes scratching down.
I know.
Mezzanine collapses.
You should go for a walk around there. You should have a look in there. It's unreal.
Hell, it's unreal.
There's about another 5 or 6, 7 bikes in the garden shed as well. Keep going. It's a bit of a problem, I guess.
Nah, it's okay. It's only a problem. Wait, what's the saying? It's only a problem when. Oh, well, it's never a problem.
Yeah, it's just not a problem.
It's not a problem.
Yeah.
I'd just like to point out that his Allen keys are also not labelled like mine.
It's in the screwdriver
They're in the
drawer.
screwdriver's drawer. See, Allen keys is just one of those things that just sleep over
They don't
wherever
get
they
their own
want.
drawer.
No, they're just wherever they fit. Nobody labels them.
It's funny you said that actually, because I had the label sheet that came with that toolbox when I was cleaning up. I looked at them and looked at the toolbox and thought,
See, no love for the poor old Allen keys.
Maybe, yeah, no one just likes the.
Do you just have the one pot of grey paint that you just paint everything in?
yeah, it's woodland grey. Good, solid colour.
It is. It looks really good.
I feel like that's everyone. Everyone has their go-to colour. My old man's is that shitty Colorbond green,
Oh yeah.
and I'm going to call him out on that.
What's with the kitchen knife and block set?
Don't like throwing stuff out. Oh yeah.
That's cool. I love all the little knickknacks. It's like your dad's shed. Same all the
Yeah.
heaps of cool little
How
knickknacks.
cool is that? FJ clock.